Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and welcome to our quest session. And in this session, we are going to interview Srinivas Jammalamadaka ji. Namaste, Srinivas ji. Thank you so much for joining us in this interview. Let's begin this session with a prayer. Sahana vavatu sahanau bhunattu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. I would like to take this opportunity to first introduce Srinivas ji for the benefit of the audience. Srinivas Jammalamadaka ji studied Nyaya, Tarka Shastra under Sri Ambadipudi Radhe Shyama Shastri, Advaita Vedanta under Sri R. Manidravida Shastrigal, and Vyakarana under Sri Ganti Dattatreya Murthy Acharya. He has completed the Tenali exams in Tarkashastra and appeared for the Tenali exams in the Advaita Vedanta. He has completed MPhil and PhD in Nyaya Shastra. He is presently the assistant professor at the School of Shastric Learning, Kavikula Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Rampek. He has conferred awards such as Tarkaratnam, Vidwan Mani by Sri Kanchi Shankaracharya, Shastra Kalanidhi by Madhya Pradesh State Government. So it is a very big honor for me to conduct this interview and have this conversation with you, Srinivas ji. To begin this interview, I would like to first ask, how did you begin on this journey, the spiritual journey of seeking? And could you also tell us a little bit about your background in Nyaya and Tarka as well as Advaita Vedanta?
First of all, thank you for for Indic Academy and Indica Moksha for conducting these kind of sessions and unique programs that you normally do. So coming to the this thing, I mean, how was I introduced to this study? It's pure destiny, I would say, rather than a plan for it and strategies or anything behind it, like kind of a thing. Because I do come from a very normal family. I don't have any legacy of Shastra Pandits in my family. My father is a marketing consultant, so but he had a very he used to travel a lot, so he had this what do you call he used to travel a lot, so he had this in mind that somewhat the Vedic knowledge or the studies of Vedas and Shastras is more essential than the common education, whatsoever it may be. So he introduced us to, then we went through this Vedadhyayana and Shastradhyayana quest all together. Sheerly on the Shraddha in Guru. So it is moreover like it was not a plan for me to study Nyaya Shastra or Advaita Vedanta. It is moreover like the Gurus were known. I mean, coming to my Nyaya Guru, my father had he knew my Nyaya Shastra Guru from a longer period. So it happened so that while we were studying our bachelor's in Tirupati, my Guruji, Sri Radhe Shyam Shastrigal, was also there in that place where we were studying. So it was natural for us to go and meet him. And we didn't know whether it was Nyaya Shastra or Vedanta or what. So it was moreover like our Guru was there, and my father requested to just, seek a guidance. That's it. It was not like, you have to go take them as your shishas and etc. It was like, as you are there in the same field, kindly guide these children. So then he first initially 3 to 6 months, he had just examined our commitment levels. How, I mean, whether we are really interested towards study, or was it like a very time pass kind of nature that we have or not? Whenever I say we, it is because my education is throughout with my elder brother, Surya Narayana. So he is my Sahadhyayi. So whatever we studied together. So it's natural for me to, if I whatever talk about my studies, the thing we comes in rather than I, because it was together as brothers we are. So we just for 3 months it was moreover like he used to call us in the morning, early mornings at 4 o'clock or 3:30, to just test our commitment levels, whether they're going to come or not. He used to give us small assignments and see whether we were completing them in time or not, kind of a thing. Then when he felt like we are eligible and we do have the needed qualities as a Shishya, then he proposed we can go through the Shastradhyayana. But he said that Shastradhyayana, that is for commitment. So I need commitment that you'll do whatever I say. Uh, so that means that we may have to stop doing some things which we like as persons. So it was all like that. I mean, it was moreover like Niyamadhyana is going to happen. So in Niyamadhyana, it is like uh, there are no set rules, but it is mostly like you need to have something called a Shushrusha. Shrotumichha Shushrusha. I mean, the desire to listen to what your Guru say. Listening, meaning, I mean, you have to be ready to do whatever your Guru says. So that was the only thing that he asked. That are you interested in Niyamadhyana? We said fine, and he said then fine. So that was the beginning, and he happened to be a Nyaya Shastra Vidwan. So we happened to study Nyaya Shastra. To be frank, it happened so. So first Shastra was Nyaya Shastra, and then we studied some Vyakarana parts under Dattatreya Shastrigal. And then I felt like studying Vedanta is really more essential. So we approached Mani Guruji and requested him for Shastradhyayana. Mani Guruji has a very unique this thing. He never says no to anyone whoever approaches him for with Jignasa. But there is a practical problem studying under Mani Guruji was that he was in Chennai, and that too in a prime location like Mylapore. So he was like, find a place to stay and chalk out how you are going to sustain in Mylapore. So these both were the challenges, because he said I cannot what you call refer you or provide you a place to stay and food kind of a thing, because we were married by then. So we had to stay with our family, so with my wife and etc. So he was like, you have to, first address the practical issues rather than afterwards thinking, about more about the study. So by Ishvara Anugraha, we had some uh, donors who facilitated all those things. Some have taken care of the expenses of the rental issues. Some have given monthly scholarships. There were many people who have actually helped us to sustain in Chennai because of the cost of living, and even that too in a nearby place like Mylapore, which is so high in considering the cost of living in Chennai. But we had by Ishwaranugraha some Astik Janas who have helped us by funding in various uh, with various amounts whatsoever if it's possible for them, which actually enabled us to complete our Vedanta Dhyana also. So yeah, so this is in brief, I would say.
Thank you so much, Srinivas ji, for sharing about the journey so far and also the acharyas that you have studied with. It was also very nice to note how your studies has always been with your elder brother. So how you always kept referring to we and not as I. And I think a partner in studies, especially in Adhyatma, is very, very essential. So if you could tell that experience of studying with your brother, if you could shed a little light on that, please.
Yeah. So it's actually a very unique thing, I would say. It doesn't happen to everyone. Yeah, even that is what even my gurus or elders also say. Because studying with having a sahadhyayi is normal, but having your own elder brother as a sahadhyayi for a longer period of time and sustaining that relation until now, it's a bit kind of a very unique this thing. It was not planned whatsoever. It was also again a pure destiny thing, I would say. And it happened so that I have an elder brother, one and only elder brother, who is 2 years elder to me, and we don't have any other siblings. I mean, he and me, only two. So, and actually, we are poles apart, basically. But still, we had this opportunity of studying together. So it was a very different and but we used to share everything. As our life is like student life, we had to cook by ourselves and everything, and all the responsibilities we had to share like normal roommates only. One day morning he will cook, one day I will cook, kind of a thing will be there. And at the same time, we even somehow had this unique thing also. Wherever I lacked something in studies, he used to excel in that, and wherever he lacked something, I used to come up with something, and we used to both have to, used to help each other and study together. And even we had our own independent thinking thought process also. So I would say even that is also pure destiny, as even gurus found us. I would say like the anugraha, guru anugraha, which is very essential and rare, as we had. Even the amicability that we share as brothers is also something very, though we have to sustain a relationship without, over a period of time, it is really hard to get on. But still, we somehow managed. Maybe sometimes I had to put my ego aside. Maybe he had to put his ego other side. But still, we had this sense of being that, interdependability. So we realized that very early, I suppose, that we had to, in order to sustain for a longer period of time in this field, being together is our strength. At the same time, they may call it, some may feel it to be a weakness also, but moreover, we felt we had one for another to seek advice or uh, come together with solutions for problems whatever we face. And we used to study together. We used to, moreover, like even though we used to study independently also, as we say, Acharya Padamadatte Padam Sishya Swamedhaya Padam Sabrahmacharibhya Padam Kalantarena Cha. So we used to study together mostly. I would say 80% of our student life is together, like which we call it as Chintana. Apart from Guru's Patha, we have the essential thing called as Chintana, where we have to actually again discuss the Patha and go ahead with. So that Chintana is something combined studies. We had 80% of it together. We used to study together. And then again, even then, after that, we used to have what you call individual sessions also for us. I used to study for myself. He used to study for himself. That was a little part, I would say, not more than 20%, but 80% we used to study together. At times, even our examiners used to stay. You know, if in a grantha, particular grantha, somewhere if he has left out or some problem or something that which he we used to have similar things. I mean, a part where he left out, I used to also leave it. So it was moreover like examining him and examining me was moreover like a same thing to do. So that is why they used to not ask the same questions that were asked for my brother. Because if he has answered, it is like this fellow will also answer. So you have to not ask the same question. So that was the kind of synchrony we had. I would say that is also pure Daivanugraha. Because of Daivanugraha, we had such an understanding. Even today, our objectives will be the same, even though our approach may be different. As I said, we are poles apart as persons. Maybe our persona or personality, our approach towards the things may vary, but the ultimate objective or ultimate goals that we share the same thing, but with a different individuality tinge would be there. If I had to deal a problem, I may have a separate solution path. He may have a separate solution path, but the whole objective would be the same kind of a thing. So that is also pure. I would say it's a subject to destiny, and rather than I don't like to say that it was we who have sought out many things together to sustain a relationship, because I don't want to take the kartritva here, because it's not possible. Because I've seen many people, whether it would be relations or not, things won't sustain for a longer period of time. Relations won't sustain for a longer period of time without some greater cause should be there. And I think it's some other cause which is pure the Daivan Graha, due to which it happened so that we both studied the same subjects under the same guru at the same time, that too together. So that's also pure destiny, I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Srinivas ji. I mean,
and you have to even put aside your ego, because he's elder to me, right? At times he has to agree to whatever I say. So in that way, why didn't his ego overpower every time? That's also something very, I would say, unique thing that happened in our life.
Indeed. And that working as a team, you mentioned as you were speaking that in this field, we both realized early that rather than being by ourselves or to work by ourselves, it is important to be together and to do things together. Only then it can be much more fruitful, effective. So,
and Adhyana also will flourish if you have someone with you. Sahadhyayi. If you have a Sahadhyayi, what happens is you reflect, your reflection or your introspection will actually enhance. because there is someone else who is actually even reviewing your thought process also. So in that way, it helped us even throughout our studies to excel. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very true. So, having said that, next question I would like to ask you, Srinivas ji, is to understand how Nyaya Shastra can help a seeker in the path of Adhyatma.
I would say only one thing. The process of Nyaya Shastra in Nyaya Bhashyam, Nyaya Shastra has a unique way of uh, um, there is a design for Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya Sutras. Uddeshaha Lakshanam Pariksha. Okay. So Namana Padartha Sankirtanam Uddeshaha. First, the subject is being stated, then defined, and then it will be examined. Uddeshaha Lakshanam. Lakshanam means definition, and Pariksha means examination. So this is a design, I would say, that the Nyaya Shastra goes through. And knowingly or unknowingly, the Shastra Adhyayana itself is like this. Uddeshaha Lakshanam Pariksha every time. So you state, you define, you examine. So in this way, in our whatever, whether it is Adhyatma, life, or normal, anything, any subject, in order to understand anything, you need to first know what you need to know. Then you need to know the definition of it. Then you can examine it. So if you want a solution for a problem, first you need to know that what is your problem. Identifying the problem itself is the first thing. And then comes defining the problem. So most of the times what happens is identifying the problem itself would be the solution for the problem. In Adhyatma sphere, what happens is normally you don't know what the problem is. So the moment you know the problem, you know the solution. Or else if you could define your problem, then finding a solution would be easier. At times, while defining the problem itself, the solution itself is defining your problem. At times. So in that way, Nyaya Shastra trains in all these things, because Nyaya Shastra has a system of definitions. It helps you because Lakshanam is one of the main subjects of Nyaya Shastra, and even afterwards, even in Vedanta or in Mimamsa, this Lakshanam thing follows. So whatever you learn in Nyaya Shastra, the techniques are applied in other Shastras. So that is why it is called as Nyaya Shastra is called as Sarva Shastropakarakam. Because whatever the concepts are dealt in Nyaya Shastra are applicable universally in all the Shastras. So in order to enhance your understanding of other Shastras, the knowledge of Nyaya Shastra is very much essential. In what ways? With these kind of unique concepts called definition and examination, how to examine, you have to ask the right question at times to get the right answer. So you are trained in asking questions, you are trained in identifying logic, okay, and finding faults, identifying logic, defining things. So these are all the concepts that you are going to get introduced in Nyaya Shastra, which actually helps, and then Vedanta Adhyayana, which actually enhances by the grounding of Nyaya Shastra. So it is like finding solutions. Solutions are out there in Vedanta, but in order to understand the inner meaning or the kind of solutions that are derived, you need to have the grounding of Nyaya Shastra. So there is a very unique combination. So that is why they say whether you are a Vedanti with Nyaya Vedanti or Anyaya Vedanti. Anyaya Vedanti means a person who has studied straight away Vedanta without having the knowledge of Nyaya Shastra. So so that Vedanti is considered to be different from a Nyaya Vedanti. Nyaya Vedanta, Anyaya Vedanta. So Nyaya Vedanta is a bit more a better, which people normally say. If you study Mimamsa Shastra, that is more. It's a more value addition for Vedanta. So in that way, Nyaya Shastra is like, that is why it's the basis for all the Shastras.
And I must tell here, I got the anugraha of learning Nyaya Shastra, the basics. I wouldn't say I learned all of it, but the basics to just get introduced to the Shastra with the guidance of Srinivas ji some time back. So it is an ocean. I mean, that's telling it is an ocean itself is seeming funny to me because we are still labeling it by saying it is this, it is that, but it is very vast and very, very scientific, if you can say that. That was my first introduction to something so scientific in Bharatiya Drishti. That just changed my perspective and lens towards the whole study of Shastra and Adhyatma. So thank you for sharing, Srinivas ji. Next question for you is, what led you to your current role as an assistant professor at the Kavikula Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University?
The answer is the same again. If you ask me any question, the answer would be it's pure destiny, not a plan. For me personally, I wouldn't say this would be applicable for everyone, but for me, it is moreover like it was just a destiny, I would say. It happened so that it is not through some plan that I wanted to do this or do that. It happened so that one day I got a call from initially before working in Ramtech, I worked in Tirupati National Sanskrit University for 2 years. It was just a call from a professor, Shri Ramlal ji, so who happened to be professor in Department of Nyaya in National Sanskrit University, that there is a small opening here, whether you would be interested to work here or not. So that was just a random call, and I was actually at the ending of my Adhyana, Vedanta Adhyana. I had one more year, like actually to study under Guruji. So I was not actually interested to take up because I don't want to leave my Guru and study it online. If I had to leave, I had to study online. But I was preferring to stay there offline and study. But when I went and asked Guruji that, because it's an offer that it itself came. Normally people go for jobs and all these things. So it itself came to me. So I had to take an advice from my Guru. So he said, you see, one thing is that you got married, you have a wife, you have things to sustain. You are a grihastha also. You have to keep that in mind. And he was like, do you have any specific reason to say no? So this was the main question that Guruji asked. And then I said I had nothing apart from me not liking to leave the presence of Guru. I don't have any other reason to say no to that particular offer. Then he said, then just go see how would it be. So that happened. Then after 2 years, COVID happened. This lockdown thing, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and it was a contract job for the first 2 years, whatever I had. And then again, in the lockdown period, it happened so that I got a call from one of my PhD guides stating that there is an opening in Ramtech, and whether it was like whether if you are interested, you have to apply. So it was also pure again the same question whether I have to go or not. It itself came. So why not? So again, you apply for that, and most of the people were so. I mean, they were like they knew us as Shastra this thing, and they had seen us somewhere in Chinmaya University or somewhere, the VC and the dean. So they were they knew me who as a person was, and they preferred me for that job to be. I mean myself to be fitting for that position. So it happened so that I'm working there. So it's again a pure destiny call. I would say that whatever I am today working as an assistant professor in Nyaya Shastra, that is also it's part of my uh, journey as a this thing I would say rather than a very strategic thing doing in this particular age of my life I would say. So I have to see what more life has for me to know whether I'm going to stay in this place for a longer period or not. That also we never know. Yeah.
That leads me to the next question to understand what is your approach and philosophy to teaching. Uh, I think you are teaching at university level. So there would be students, some of them who might have a background in Adhyatma or in Nyaya, but some who might also not be so much aware of it. For example, when you taught us, we were all not having much clue about Nyaya and the nuances of it. So could you please share a little bit about the approach you take up while teaching?
I would say one thing for teaching, whatever the teaching should be or will be natural. I mean, it should be natural rather than uh, uh, and the most fundamental thing is to have the desire for sharing knowledge. So that is the core and basic, quality, right? If you're sharing knowledge and if you're enjoying it, teaching is nothing but sharing your knowledge, but sharing in such a way based on the sensibilities of the listener. If I had to teach something related to Vedanta for an 80-year-old elder, if I had to introduce a concept, my approach will be definitely different from an 8-year-old kid to an 18-year-old teenager. So the first thing would be who is the listener. So while I taught in to you guys in Rashtam, so it was something different because you all come from very different backgrounds. I cannot have an approach which I had in my Gurukula. So that is not an approach that I can adhere there because I know that the audience there is well established in their own fields. They're all like somewhat they have their own opinions. So it cannot be like me as a guru stating everything whatever I know and just going out. It is more of like first I have to pinch you guys and see what your what you know the kind of responses that I get, and then establish a relation, and that is more a thing to make it alive, because I also need to know and make sure that whether the knowledge is getting transferred or not, whether it is one way that am I putting forth whatever I know and I'm just going out, or whether whatever I am actually sharing is being shared and whether it is being digested at least 10 to 20% by the student or whoever is the what you call the listener over there, whether he is able to connect or not. So that is what I see every time. And if the response is not so good, I will even stop at times. If the people are not finding it interesting, so I would like to rather, if I had to complete this much of a portion, if I keep that in my mind and go, and if I see that people are not responding as I expected, I would rather take a half a portion of it, complete half a portion, with at least 20% of it getting transferred into something meaningful for the listener. So I would pay more attention about the whether it is having any impact to the listener or not, rather than the quantity of the amount of time and energy that I have spent there, and more about my understanding, showcasing my understanding of that particular subject, because my understanding could be uh, whether it is full or not, I don't know. The first thing I would say is that um, I accept my ignorance first rather than my knowledge in that particular subject. I would say the more I study, the more I understand the depth and uh, vastness of my ignorance than my knowledge, actually. The more I study, the more I understand that, oh, I didn't know these things until I came to know. So there is much that I don't know. So it is not about what I know, but it is about all that I don't know that is out there. That is so vast and so deep that I don't know. So it is not about whether me being a scholar in whatever people normally say. They say that I have completed Nyaya Shastra. In Nyaya Shastra, there are a lot many other things which I don't know. There is a lot that I don't know in Vedanta. There is a lot that I don't know in Vyakarana. Rather, I would say I know a pinch of, in that whole Sagara. So, it is every time it is not about my scholarship, because I don't believe in that. Having, being even addressed as a scholar, I would at times have my own what you call doubt. Why should I be uh, addressed as a scholar, well-known person of the Shastra? Because you don't know many things. So, and even whatever I know, there may be some what you call mm, here and there minus points also, that my understanding could be different, or it could be half. I may understand it thoroughly or not. So that is why you never know that. So I just keep all those egoistic things aside and say that, I will rather share my understanding, because my guru may have taught me with much more value addition, which I may have left in the process. As you say, electricity while passing from place A to place B, there will be some what you call, some of the electricity would be wasted in the travel itself. So in that way, while my guru teaching me something, there could have been some part of the knowledge or some amount may have gone somewhere else. Maybe I was not able to absorb it in such a way. So my understanding could be full or not. I don't know. But I would share whatever I know, which makes actually, which I would be eager to transfer that to the listener. Try my level best to transfer that amount of knowledge to the listener, whether you call it as a student or someone else, so that which makes sense to him or not. So that is what I see, rather than all these other taglines, or I would say unnecessary weights that we carry.
Thank you, Srinivasji. And I think to keep the listener in mind as we do it, and to ensure that it reaches them is the most essential. Thank you so much for sharing that. How do you see the field of or the study of Nyaya Shastra, Advaita Vedanta evolve in the future?
The most relatable subjects among many would be Nyaya Shastra and Vedanta for the contemporary, even the future. Ever relatable. You know, all our Shastras are ever relatable, is what I feel. Some may say, like, in some aspects of Dharma Shastra are not even applicable today, and etc., etc., etc. I don't uh, at times even agree with them in on that. I say that knowledge is uh, evergreen, ever relatable. So, and in the contemporary situation, it is more, I would say, relatable, because, as I said, in order to understand, anything, you need to examine. So for that, you need a rational approach. uh, you need to have a logical approach. So Nyaya Shastra is nothing but that, being rational and being logic, and teaching you how to be rational and how to be logic. Unfortunately, these were uh, 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 leftover subjects. They Everyone think these to be a very spiritual subjects, as if the spirituality is a very different aspect of life. Spirituality actually is part and parcel of the life. It doesn't mean that in order to be spiritual, you have to leave the world as it is, the materialistic world. The materialistic world itself has spiritual a layer to it, because each and everything starts with an idea and a philosophy. Even the iPhone design has a philosophy. Everything starts with the philosophy. Every technology, each and every, whatever innovation we have, whatever new things that we see in the society, they all start with an idea. So where from this idea emerges, what is this? So this all again comes under philosophy, wherein Vedanta is very much related. Now we are now talking about everything, talking about sustainability. If you talk about environmentalism, you talk and sustainable environmental practices, sustainable business practices, sustainable marketing strategies, sustainable marketing practices. So when you call about sustainability, every time we are again referring to a very pure Indic idea of dharma artha kama moksha. If you actually relate to that, where the actually we hold whatever the systems that have been that emerged in this land, part of Bharat, they are all sustainable. Every time when you examine them, they are all sustainable, because they share a very unique framework, like the four purusharthas, or whatsoever, many other things, if we go all together. So in that way, and even having the understanding of Vedanta and Nyaya Shastra, you every time come to the fundamentals. You don't get away with the outer nuances of the glittery world, but rather you ask some fundamental questions every time. Even while progressing in your life, also at times there will be junctures where you have to ask some fundamental questions about your path ahead. So, wherein actually the understanding of Vedanta with Nyaya would actually help you to understand whether this life has a very, what you call, a very small purpose, or does it has a very vast or a higher purpose to it? Whether you are serving that or not, and are you getting crumbled with the just the mundane aspects of life or not. So Vedanta actually helps you in addressing all these very, I would say, intense fundamental questions, which cannot be answered without Shastra Adhyayana. Many people may think that we know many things about ourselves, but when I start asking question about what are you, what is mind, what is self, or what do you think you are, uh, just you don't know the answer, and you
Yeah.
don't know the way to know, and without defining that, you cannot find answers to the problems that you face in your life. When
Mm.
you start asking these questions, when you start finding answers, the understanding or the way you perceive yourself or your life is totally different.
Mm.
I've experienced that with many people by asking simple questions about what do you think about yourself, who
Mm.
is you, and what is a life all about, and can you define life, can you define mind, can you define yourself. So if I ask these fundamental questions, what is life all about, day to day life all about, can you state it in 2 words? You never know, because without the help of Shastra, you cannot answer these kind of fundamental questions, which are very much essential, which we take it for granted normally. We don't actually examine many things in our life. As you know, our body itself is the sophisticated, the most sophisticated machine that can be created, ever created by anyone.
Mm.
We don't actually respect this body. We take it for granted, actually, right? But there are so many systems in this body which you cannot actually replicate even today.
Mm.
We are not able to replicate a human body until now, a functioning body, right? So because that complex is this body itself, which is external, which is sthula, and going to the sukshma parts are too complicated, too multi-layered to understand. Wherein our shastras have dealt these so beautifully. So yeah, in that way, I would say understanding or having the knowledge of Nyaya Shastra and Vedanta is so much essential even for a business student also. Whoever the student may be, whoever, whatever the core subject that he may be dealing with, if he has the grounding, at least introduction of particular basic fundamental concepts of Nyaya Shastra and Vedanta, the understanding of that particular subject would be enhanced. I can assure you for that. Maybe I think I have to take a feedback, from yourself, whether before having the knowledge of Nyaya Shastra, at least the fundamentals of Nyaya Shastra, and after having the fundamentals of Nyaya Shastra or Vedanta, whether the approach or the kind of understanding that you have to your core other subjects have changed or not. I think yes, they will definitely
In
change.
fact, the the way the questions, the framing of questions have itself changed, because the focus has shifted to the philosophy or what is driving the action, the decision, rather than something which is superficial, something that naturally the mind wants to abstract and think deeper and go to the core of things. That is
Yeah.
definitely, that is what I am able to observe. And
Yeah, each and everyone will have their own version to it. So that
correct.
is the beauty of it also. So it
Mm.
is customized.
Correct.
It doesn't has a very normal. I may have a different version from yours.
Mm.
So and in that way, study of Nyaya Shastra and Vedanta would be ever relatable, I would say.
Thank you so much, Srinivas ji. And I think that was a very, what to say, a very fitting reply to that question, and to, uh, you know, uh, leave our viewers with a lot of things to think, ponder upon and think. And I would just like to add here that it is also our goal at Indica Moksha and Advaita Academy to just do this, to spread the knowledge of Advaita Vedanta, and also other streams of knowledges in Sanatana Dharma for the benefit of people to enhance whatever they are doing in their respective domains, because the power of this knowledge is just infallible. It is unimaginable and infallible, and this is exactly what we wish to do as our small offering in this greater scheme of things. So once again, on behalf of Indica Moksha, I would like to express our gratitude, Srinivas ji, for having given this time with us to conduct this interview and this conversation. We look forward to having more such conversations in the near future to discuss more and also have some of your talks. We also already do, but we always look forward to learning from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.